I don't suppose political discourse has ever been particularly polite and warm between political enemies. But we do seem to be in a period of both racial tension, a period of lockdown tension, a period of COVID tension, in which intolerance and anger does seem to be the language not just of the street, where you might expect that, but the language of debate in the media and even among friends as they have these discussions. The well of political discourse was poisoned here in the UK over the last few years as Brexit happened. Those who voted Remain and those who voted Brexit could hardly bring themselves to debate in a respectful and civilised manner. Lots of ad hominem attacks where people were criticised rather than their views intelligently dissected. So, how can we as Christians encourage respect and dial down the temperature when debate and strongly held views are expressed? Well, our role is spelt out in the Sermon on the Mount which Jesus preached, and the fullest exposition of it is in Matthew chapter 5, 6 and 7. And the early part of it is the Beatitudes. And one particular Beatitude I want to draw attention to today for us to reflect on. Matthew 5 verse 9. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God. Notice it's not the peace lovers who are praised, those who just quite like a quiet life, but those who actively engage in bringing peacefulness into frenetic, fraught and difficult situations. Now, of course, these happen globally. People are watching this all over the world. I'm sure if you live in the United States that in the run-up to the presidential election, the supporters of President Trump and the supporters of Senator Biden are not always going to speak to each other with grace, dignity and respect. In fact, it's pretty clear that this is going to be a very angry and frustrated debate between two quite committed factions to bringing about either a further period of leadership for President Trump or desperate to overturn that and to see Senator Biden installed as president. It's going to be a pretty brutal campaign, almost certainly. Christians in America will have a special role to play, however strong their political views are, in bringing peace to that, in helping the dialogue to be respectful. And of course, here in Britain and around the world, there's the COVID lockdown debates that are making people angry and intolerant. There are more and more and more voices raised questioning the governments of the West about whether they were right to do what they did. Some are angry and believe lives would have been saved if they'd have locked down earlier. Others think the whole lockdown thing hasn't really contributed much to the process, and in fact its continuance is killing our society by destroying our National Health Service and other health agencies, ruining our economy and making it worse day by day for the poorest of people in our society. And instead of tolerance and grace in the debate, the anger levels rise. And of course on our streets, in recent protests, we've seen not just protest, but counter-protest. And sadly, though not in every case, of course, we've seen violence erupt and anger and intolerance between two groups of people. I've actually been enormously encouraged by the number of leaders I've read about in Black Lives Matter from around the world who've encouraged their protesters to protest peacefully. That's a strong and biblical concept, and I'm grateful for their encouragement to their supporters to behave in this way. Christians in all these settings, political, economic, health, in the government, in personal lives, debating with the man over the road, with parents, of friends, all of that, we want the discourse to be filled with grace. And these lovely, beautiful attitudes at the beginning of Matthew 5 contain this great command to all of us: be bringers of peace. Be those who are known For, yes, holding strong views, of course, but expressing them with a kind of charm and a carefulness that treats the opposing view with dignity and respect. Shouting, vitriol, hatred, those things won't see these issues resolved, and they will end up hurting people even more. So today in your prayers and today in your actions, pray for and be the peacemaker God longs for us to be and longs for our world to experience.